Hello beautiful soul and welcome to Manifest with me, Rebecca G. I'm your manifestation, meditation and mindset coach who blends equal measures of soul, strategy and a little sprinkle of science on the side. Consider me your modern day pink witch with my spiritual toolbox packed full of ideas to energize and inspire you and to put the action into the law of attraction. Let this podcast be your weekly fix because, my beautiful soul, it is time to turn your vision board into a reality. Hello beautiful souls and welcome to the Manifest with me Rebecca G podcast. I'm so excited to be back here. I've taken a few weeks off. You wouldn't know it because I have batch contented, is that the word? Loads and loads of podcasts so that you weren't going to be left like, hey, where's her poddies? I never want to do that. I always want to make sure you've got one dropping into your phone twice a week now that we've got Sacred Secrets, which is super cool. So I took some time off with my husband and my God, did we have a good time. I haven't had time like that with my husband since before we had our little boy. So he's 3.5. I was pregnant, you're basically pregnant for a year. So like 4.5 years ago was the last time we actually got proper time together. And we have had the odd night where granny's a babysat, but you've got to be there and pick him up in the morning. It's not the same, is it? So day one, we're like driving. We stopped for breakfast, got a coffees on the way. This is me, by the way. I'm like 10 minutes into the journey, I'm like, I'm really hungry, babe, can we stop for breakfast? He's like, babe, we've been driving for 16 minutes. I'm like, I know, but I'm really hungry. I'm trying this fasting thing, but I just forget not to eat. I don't think fasting is for me. I can do to about 11, that's like my max. And then the next 2 days I just forget and I have breakfast in the morning. I'm like, I just don't think this fasting thing's for me. Anyway, so we had this really leisurely, beautiful journey. I've never enjoyed a drive so much in many years because you're always like, has he got snacks? Like, do we need to stop for a wee? Like, he's bored, give him my phone. Like, I'm not talking about Kevin, I'm talking about my son. And he's a darling, my little boy. He is coming on leaps and bounds. He's got the most amazing personality. He makes me laugh every day, as does my husband. So he's got a bit of a mix of the two of us, I think, with piss taking and banter. But the whole journey down there was just freaking delightful. And I mean, if you've got kids, you'll know what I mean, where you just can take your time and, let's stop here. Let's stop in this town. Oh, let's get a coffee here. Oh, should we stop at this? I mean, it's a 2-hour journey. It took us about 4 hours just because we were leisurely driving. I mean, it was beaut. And then we went to a place called Salcombe, which is probably one of the most beautiful places in the UK I've ever been. And I lived in Scotland. It's gorgeous up there. But it's the most... I don't think it will be that great. Well, I don't know. Still pretty, even if it was a windy, rainy day. But we went in like the hottest week of the year so far. I mean, it was Scorchio Mendes and we had the best time because literally, if you go into Salcombe, if you've ever driven into Salcombe, there is a main road into Salcombe. But when I say main road, I mean another car comes past you and your bum is like that tense because you're like, oh, God. If you've ever been to Cornwall, it's a bit similar to that. Like the roads were built for Fiat 500s and one Fiat 500, not a 4x4, which is what we took, my car. So yeah, it was a bit hairy, but our sat-nav, don't you just love a sat-nav? The only time I lose my shit is when my sat-nav takes me the wrong way. I mean, not when Kevin's in the car because he knows how to get everywhere, but we had both never been to this part of the world. So he was new to it because he is like the human Google. He knows every road in the UK because he used to work on the tools for Southern and Scottish Electric. So he knows all the roads around Britain, but this he didn't. He'd never been down here, so it's quite interesting. We both went somewhere completely new, and these roads, I mean, it took us down the skinniest. I mean, even he was like, fuck it. And your husband's like gripping the wheel when cars are going past, and some of them you couldn't. You just had to. You were going around corners and you couldn't see what was coming next, and it was all overgrown, and it was just enough for our car. I mean, our car was hitting the edges. It's that skinny. So maybe hire a Fiat 500 or even a motorbike if you go down to that part of the world. But once you get there, it's absolute heaven and bliss. And it was not too busy either, which is nice because it wasn't summer holidays yet. And there were no kids in the hotel. Well, on the last day, there was this one little cutie who was the same age as Harley that turned up. But it was just bliss. They had all these sunbeds outside and it was very kind of Ibiza style, like this beautiful beach, gorgeous cream, like puffy, like chairs, what are they called? Sun loungers. I mean, I've never led on such a comfortable sun lounge. It's more comfortable than my actual bed. It was beautiful. Can't big this hotel up enough. And it was amazing. So we went out and we had like a few dinners and we had lunch and we went on. This little tractor comes into the shore, picks you up and then takes you out to a boat like the little ferry boat, and then it takes you around into the main town, into the main part of Stockholm, because we were on the outskirts a little bit, in their sister hotel, the Harbour Hotel, which was just stunning. So they suggested like their main hotel was like really good for dinner. They've got a restaurant there called the Jetty, which we've been to the Jetty here in Christchurch, and we were like, oh, it's our favourite restaurant. Like, do we go? Is it going to be as good? We regretted this massively because it wasn't as good. The service was great, but the actual decor of the place was a bit run down. We're like, oh, that's really annoyed us because that's like our favourite one in Dorset. But so we went, and my husband's a total wind-up. Like, I'd be eating a packet of crisps or something, and he'd be like, oh, Kylie Minogue's behind you, just to make me turn around so he could steal my crisps. That's the sort of sense of humour that we have. And I always do this in a restaurant where I'll go, oh my God, look over there. Someone's actually brought their cat with them. And he'll be like, no way. Turn around, and I'll like, bosh, eat his last prawn. So I thought that's what he was doing to me because I had prawns and steak. And he was like, babe, Rod Stewart's behind you. And I was like, no way, shut up. I'm not turning around because I'm eating my lovely, my husband always, I'm a fast eater. Like, I inhale my food. There's nothing pretty about that, but my husband's an even quicker eater than me. So I'm always like guarding my chips. And I was like, bastard, he's going to try and steal my food. That's what was going through my head. And he's like, honestly, put your phone up behind you, turn the camera around, like as if you're doing a selfie, put it over your shoulder. And I was like, okay. He's like, honestly, Rod Stewart is behind you. And he freaking was. But I'm talking like if I leant back with my hand, I could touch him. That's how close he was. So I want to give you this kind of context of how close he was to our table so that it makes this story even more shocking. Then in walks his very drunk, very loud wife, and I adore her. I love watching her on TV and things, and she is no bad taste in my mouth about her at all. Not much. She was really, really drunk. I mean, to the point where it was funny for a couple of minutes, but then when, like, how loud you would talk at a nightclub next to somebody, like. It was really quiet at a restaurant, like peaceful music, and that's how loud they were talking. I'm not even going to do the impression on here because it was raucous. But she was FaceTiming her friend, and her friend was on the toilet. So she was telling everybody in the restaurant, including Rod, that she was having a poo on the loo. And this conversation went on for ages, and they were getting louder and louder and louder. And I just thought, me and Kev couldn't even have a conversation because they're so loud. It's not like you could even just like up your voice a little bit, and it just wasn't relaxing. There was people from our hotel that we recognised. Actually, they had older children, but I mean, I'm older. I'm talking like 10 and 12, so they're still little, and they were like effing and jeffing. So they got up and complained. Lots of other people were complaining. It was a bit raucous. So we were like, should we go back to our hotel for sticky toffee pudding? Because I'd clocked that the night before when we ate there, and I hadn't had it the night before. I was really like, no, we're here for 4 nights. I don't know why I do that. I'm always like, I'll skip pudding tonight because I'm going to have it tomorrow. Not like me at all. So we decided to go, and I said, right, I'm going for a quick wee. You get the bill. Got up, went to the toilet, and I had like a shirt dress on, a new red shirt dress that I bought from Silk Fred. Very nice. With some wedges, toddling off to the toilet. And apparently he was checking out my legs. Oh, little claim to fame. I mean, probably the only part of my body that is toned these days is my legs still. So I went to the loo, came back, and Kevin was like, we need to go. I was like, I know, it's really noisy, isn't it? He's like, I'll tell you in the car, because I was driving. I didn't know why I drove there. I should have walked because the roads were just nearly gave me a heart attack on the way home. But anyway, so we got in the car, and I was like, what are you waiting to tell? I can tell my husband he needs to tell me something. He's all like twitchy, and he gets like this tight mouth. I was like, what's the matter? And someone texts you something. And he's like, no, you just got slagged off by Penny Lancaster. I was like, what? He's like, well, when you walked to the toilet, he was checking out your legs. She whacked his arm and had a go at him for checking out your legs. And then started to slag off the fact that you had a black thong on, which I did. And before we left the hotel room, I'd asked my husband, can you see anything? He's like, no, you're fine. But obviously wasn't looking. He's probably looking at himself in the mirror. So I got in the car and I was like, why didn't you tell me? What did she say? And he was like, well, she was just slagging off the fact that you had she very loudly, because her friends had arrived by then, said, apparently he had said, who wears a black thong with a red dress like that anyway, or something like that, along those lines. You know what men are like. It was probably said in a different way, but wasn't very nice. And I thought, oh, someone's got a blocked root chakra. A little bit of fear going on there, Penny Wenny. I need to do my root chakra course, love. So I don't take things like that to offence. But my husband's right. I am a bit of a gobshite in situations like that where I, not unkindly, but I would have said something really sarcastic like, this is the first time I've worn a thong in about 4 years, which is probably true because I'm well into my comfy pants. I remember when I was pregnant, I had these pants that used to go up and over my belly. They were a size 22. They were so comfy because I'm normally a 12 to 14. I normally verge on 14. But actually, my bedtime pants are like, sharing everything on here, are like 14 to 16 because they're so much more comfy. I don't like to be tight. You should have seen the little bits of string I used to wear. So Kev was like, please, when we go on holiday, please, can you just wear nice pants? I was like, yeah, I promise you I will. I'll take like the cheese graters, which honestly, when you're used to wearing comfy pants for ages, I was hooking those bad boys out my ass every 5 minutes. So I was going to turn around and say something along the lines of like, well, my husband's lucky that I'm in thongs tonight. And I was just waiting to throw my pants at Rod this evening. That's why I wore a thong, because it was easier to get off. I would have said something really sarcastic like that. I wouldn't have like, oh, what are you saying about me? I'm not that sort of person, but I would have said something to sarcastic to just let her know. And maybe let her know about my app, that she could unblock her root chakra with, you know, doing some meditation and doing my subliminals within my app. And then she might have bought my Sacred Souls app and helped me advertise it. I was like, Kevin, there could have been a really positive silver lining there. He's like, love it how you're always thinking of business, but I know you would have gone over there, and I imagine they started on you. And I was like, I can handle myself. I'm all good. Rod's up to my knee, so we're all good. I'm joking. But it was quite funny. And then we saw Jerry Halliwell out shopping the next day, and it was a very celebrity kind of place, but very, very old. They don't have any. I'm doing a massive plug for Solcombe here, aren't I? My God. There's no Starbucks, there's no Costa, you can't get anything. There's a few like known like crew shops, which you would obviously expect down there, but there's a few known high street shops down there, but not very many. Like all of the shops sell like their own food, its own produce. I love that about there. Like all their cheese, milk, everything in the restaurants, all the tea, coffees are served with local milk and local produce. Like everywhere, all the cafes, all the cakes are made by local people. Everything with the stickers on, which had Devon or Cornwall on. Even the hand washes in every toilet we went in, like every pub, every restaurant, even cafes, it's all local. And apparently they have this kind of pact thing in that town. I don't know if it's everywhere in Devon and Cornwall, maybe, but I've never been anywhere else. Then they really support local business, and I love that. I just felt so on holiday in the UK. So that's enough of a plug. That's enough now, Solcombe. You've had it. You're not paying me for this. I want to talk to you today about an incredible book I read, which boom, blew my mind. I'm definitely going down the more witchy path. It's definitely my calling, and I've realised it's why I keep getting sore throats and losing my voice on here and not listening to my true inner calling, which is to bring more moon rituals, witchy stuff into my membership and my podcast, which is why I've started writing a new course, which I'm going to release around Halloween, on the witch wound and how you can make spells. And I'm sure it will become a book one day as well, because the amount of content that's going in there. And I've signed up for coaching myself with an incredible girl who I had on the podcast, Vix Marie. So she wrote an incredible book called The Witch Way to Manifest. You have to read it. It's such a beautiful book. It's so beautifully written. And when you see her online talking, that is exactly what she's like. I've met a lot of people on my podcast, and I have to say I'm very blessed. Everybody I've met I've absolutely loved. Some people are easier to interview than others, but she was an absolute dream, and I just connected with her instantly and had this kind of warm, fuzzy feeling in my heart. Literally binged her book on day one of my holiday, bosh. And then I read a second book, which took a little bit longer because it's a bigger book, but Healing Your Witch Wound is a book that made me cry on holiday. And I'm a sucker for, if I'm looking right now, if I could turn my camera around and it didn't muck up the video, because I'm doing this for YouTube now. Look at listen, if you could see me right now, I've got a mic on a look at this, on an arm. It moves, so I look like one of those proper profesh people. I've got a proper camera. I mean, it's all going on here. It's all getting very technical. That's because my Sacred Souls team, they're like, you need to start putting stuff on YouTube. I was like, oh really? That means I've got to put makeup on. Like, it's a Monday, man, when I'm recording this. I like to rock in my PJs. But anyway, so yeah, I'm a big book buyer, but I buy a lot of books, but I don't always finish them. So it takes a lot for me to finish a book. So Vix, you're doing well. And Celeste, your book was even incredible as well. So Healing the Witch Wound. And a lot of stuff came up for me reading that. It was like I'd already heard it in my shamanic healing session, which I think I need to share on here. I keep mentioning it. And some of you messaged in the questions going, you keep talking about your shamanic session and you've never actually said what happened. So I will. I've got my full reading. I will do that for you on here and let you know what happened, because me and Kev were together in a previous life. Oh, so beautiful. So yeah, these books I'm reading, the witchy books, they're just incredible. And it really made me realise there's certain areas of my witch wound that weren't healed, and which is why I've signed up for coaching with Vix as well, because I needed to have that little bit of an extra push. And I think how I can't be teaching my Sacred Souls girls and having them in a membership and constantly coaching them if I'm not having coaching myself. So I knew I needed to start doing something for myself and looking after myself and literally growing as well. I felt like I'd stopped growing. I needed to do some more learning. And if you're like me and you've got a little splash of ADHD and you've also got a manifesting generator as your design type, then you will always need to be creating and doing stuff. And I am so lit when I'm doing stuff. And you'll be like, I thought you took some time off on holiday. I did. But me taking time off and just laying there and doing absolute jack and nothing is great for a couple of hours. And then I need to do stuff because that lights me up. So whilst I am led there, I was reading and making notes in my phone and like creating a new course, and that lights me up when I'm just in those environments of somewhere different. I mean, I think it was the town as well. There was lots of witchy stuff that happened there, which I was Googling, and I was like, Kev, look at this. Like the last person that was hung as a witch was just near here. And blah, blah. And I was like looking up. He's like, do you ever stop? He's there like catching flies with his mouth open. I'm like touching his arm like, Kev, you got to hear this. This is so interesting. And he's like, brilliant. Thanks, babe. No, he is interested, bless him. But not as much as me. So I want to talk to you today. We are going to talk more witchy stuff on this podcast, but today I had this urge to talk about following the path of the most resistance. And I, at the moment, am going through another big healing phase. I know this comes when my mood goes low. I want to hibernate. I don't want to show up online as much. I haven't made any reels in ages. I'm like taking a step back. And I think as we walk through life, one of the greatest challenges that we have is making wise decisions that guide us in the right direction. And we're constantly confronted with this dilemma to choose different paths, aren't we? And each path ultimately leads to different consequences or different kind of hurdles that we need to jump over. It doesn't matter whichever path you take, the universe is always going to throw you stuff. But if we walk in the path of always looking for future opportunities, always looking to better our mind by whether that's education or my app, for example, the Sacred Souls app, or just jumping in my free Facebook group. And actually, let me tell you about this app, because if you haven't heard about it yet, you're going to need to. Are you ready to start manifesting and raising your vibration all at your fingertips? Introducing the Sacred Souls mobile app. Imagine having all of the tools you could possibly need to manifest and raise your vibration like never before, all in the palm of your hand, wherever you are in the world. Now, this membership is for you, my darling listener, if you are a beginner to manifesting and you're not sure what to do or how to get the wheels in motion. Maybe you're an old-time manifester and you've just got stuck in the mud. You feel completely blocked and you're struggling to move forward. You might be anxious and on the edge, and you're really feeling like you want to start to take control of your energy and you're wanting to really move forward with your manifestations, but you're a little bit overwhelmed trying to juggle life, and you want to find a space to start looking after you. If you've been on a spiritual journey for a while, then you will be ready to take things up a notch. There is something for everybody here. So are you ready for more? More money, more abundance, more love, more everything, and most importantly, more community. This is not just any app where you're going to be downloading things and watching videos and listening to audios. Yes, it's got all of that and beautiful workbooks within it, but you get to be part of a community and live calls and masterclasses as well. So are you ready to start creating the life of your dreams? Because I am ready to do that with you. Click the link in the show notes and join me today in my sacred community and start your manifesting journey within the Sacred Souls membership. I can't wait to see you there. So when we arrive at what we call this fork in the road in our lives sometimes, how are we supposed to tune into our intuition? How are we supposed to assess what options are wise, or how can we pick that right path to walk? And I get asked that a lot. This has come up a lot in the questions, which is why I want to cover it as a main episode here, because there's a lot to get through. So given the majority of our future is kind of based on choices that we make, such a decision could be quite stressful for many people, and it can really weigh heavy on our conscious of like, have I made the right decision? Did I tune into my intuition there? And just from my experience, what I found is humans instinctively tend to choose the easy path of the least resistance. And I've done that many, many times. I've done it recently with like, oh, I'm just not going to do the witchy stuff online much because people are going to think I'm weird. But what I found was actually the biggest share I've had on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, the reel that I made about following your intuition has had the biggest biggest response and the most shares. So I'm like, okay, that's telling me something. And then I recently spoke about the witch wound stuff on my TikTok, and I had the most inquiries about it. So I'm like, okay, this is telling me I'm definitely on the right path. But for so long I hadn't. I instinctively decided to choose talking about manifesting more, which I still will talk about because it's such a huge part of my life. But that was the easy path of least resistance for me. And that's because our minds, essentially, they're programmed for efficient survival. So we strive for this kind of max profit in our lives or whatever we're going for, but we want to exert the least amount of effort. So for example, would you rather kind of deepen your knowledge by reading a book, relaxing leisurely in front of a television, eating whole natural foods that just allow you to feel good? Or do you want to consume processed food, watch rubbish on television, like just shrink your possibilities? So provided that survival in that moment is guaranteed, almost all of us instinctively are drawn to the example where we want to take the least resistance. We want to, in our minds, sometimes these tend to be the greatest enemy is our mind for ourselves. Is what's also contributing to so much loss in people's lives as well, is that they choose that kind of, okay, I'm just going to take the easy path. And as a result, making that choice, pursuing the right path, can sometimes be really, really challenging. And most humans instinctively fall on that path of least resistance. So taking the easy route of least resistance is hardly ever the option that's available. We can also choose the harder path of resistance. So that's based on my experience. And this alternative route usually turns out to be the best option. It may be narrow. It may be a difficult path, a bit like it was down in Salcombe, that like barely trodden, barely used, but it's the passage towards growth. It's the passage towards your development. It's the seed of opportunity waiting to blossom inside of you. So if you choose this path and you properly nourish it, it is like a seed of opportunity. So you're going to find that those seeds that you plant, they will eventually flourish when you nourish them. And they will nourish into something that is going to surpass your expectations. So choosing this path certainly is going to demand that you have a bit more persistent, a bit more dedication, a bit more time around what you're trying to manifest. But this path is chosen infrequently. So you're going to have to be a trailblazer in your own life. You're going to have to find your own path through this little, imagine a forest that's never been walked through, a particular area. Like look behind my gate, behind me. If you're watching this on video, you'll see that area of the forest never gets walked in. It's like brambles. It's great because it protects our house. There's actually a massive badger set behind there. You hear them rustling at nighttime. But all that area there, you couldn't walk through there. But imagine I did, okay? So this is what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to walk through the stinging nettles, walk through all the prickles. So you have to become the wolf who thinks for herself, who conquers uncertainty. And you simply will not be coasting along, moving along the path like a little sheep following the herd to its final destination. You have to be different. You are different. Your DNA says you're different. You're different from the next person. You could set up a manifesting podcast and you'd be talking about something completely different to me because you've got a different voice to me. You've got a different energy to me. You look different to me. You are different to me. So stop putting yourself in this box of like, I can't do that because they're doing that. Or I'm just going to follow and I'm just going to keep doing this because this is where I'm safe. And I'm not saying give up your job and like, hey, I've always wanted to run a pet shop. Fuck it. I'm just going to give up my corporate job tomorrow and I'm going to open a pet shop with nothing behind me. Like, I'm not telling you to do that, but I don't know, maybe start looking into pet shops. But in the long run, the end result always gives more than it takes. And you will be amazed as your concept of what is possible is continuously challenged all the time. Now, I feel like the challenges I get in my life, even though I deal with them really well because of the personal development I've done and I know kind of to see things from a bird's eye view, doesn't mean to say I still don't lose my shit and I still don't have bad days. And this is an example, right? So I recently, on my path, I had this huge calling to write this course and I was like, kept stepping back, this witch course I'm talking about now. And I just kept putting it out there. And I thought, this is about, a year and a half ago. So I thought, I know, I'm going to do the 21 days to magically manifest. And that was amazing. It's still great. People are still reviewing that in the app and loving it. And of course it's so worth it because we want to learn about manifesting. But I know there's something deeper within me. I keep getting all these sore throats. I've still got this fucking eye infection I've had for about 3 weeks. And I know it's my body just going, okay, you need to literally just take a step back and look at what you really, really want to do. And every time I went within, every time I did the 777 portal meditation. When I'm writing meditations, I often get downloads myself. And it was, you have to write this course. Doesn't matter how long it takes you, because it'll end up being a book. So I literally was taking the path of the easiest resistance by doing everything skirting around the edge, and on the occasion to my moon rituals that we do on the full moon, which you're welcome to join, by the way. We would always do like little rituals on there and spells and things, and the girls would love it. I had this huge fear that they would be like, oh, sorry, we joined you for like manifestation, law of attraction stuff. This is a bit weird. I don't know why. I still had that wound. And when I read Heal Your Witch Wound, she really made me realise, and actually working with Vic and doing her course, there's a lot of stuff that we have buried within us. There's a lot of wound healing that needs to happen from our ancestors. And whether you were a witch yourself or you knew someone that was, that's in your ancestral lineage. It's incredible when you start learning about it. I'm going to be bringing it into my courses and definitely teaching that soon. And I'll be talking more about it on the podcast as well, because it's just, it's really sad, some of it as well. So many of you at the moment, you might be, I'm not going to bash drinking on here, but you might be over drinking. You might be overdoing something. So you're going out all of the time to kind of bury your sorrows. And that often comes with drinking alcohol if you're going out a lot of the time, or you're not kind of stepping up to your responsibilities at work maybe, and you're just burying your head in the sand. Or maybe there's a difficult conversation that you need to have with someone you're not happy with at the moment. Whatever it is, there's something at the moment, someone that's listening to this, there's a kind of a thoroughly deep dissatisfaction in their life. Maybe you're bored or you just got disengaged, and there's not this feeling of excitement. If there is this feeling of fleeting kind of moments of excitement in your life, where does that come from? Is it, going out and about and being around friends? That's great. We obviously need that. But have you got it for this long, sustainable happiness? Are you taking the path of most resistance to get that? Are you working on those deep-rooted feelings and things that you're struggling with? Are you doing that within your body? Because your biggest goal in life, the best way for you to manifest, is to look after your body, your soul that is like decoding all of those limiting beliefs, anything that's stuck and stagnant within there. And once you start to unravel and unpick yourself and you work on yourself for the long run, this journey of happiness becomes sustainable. It really does. And you'll have these little dips in your life, but you'll know, I'm taking the path of most resistance at the moment because I'm going to get to work on myself. So what I don't want you to do is allow any fear to take over. Fear that will grab the wheel and just steer you down the wrong direction, because it will lead to a path of complacency. And that's not where improvement in your life lives, is it? It's where you feel restricted, restrained. You feel like you're just put in this box and you're just like, I just want to scream and get out. The pressure, you need to use that pressure to drive you towards the lifestyle and the life and the job or whatever that you personally want to live. So the path of most resistance is a term you're not likely to hear. The term we typically use is the least resistance. And I understand why, because it's just so natural, doesn't it? As human beings, we want to look for the shortcuts. We want to look for the easiest path. We want to look for the merit. We want to look for, being top of the class. I did this in a business I was in. I was in a network marketing business. No shade on network marketing. I had the most incredible time, met the most incredible people, learned the most incredible skills. If you're looking to get into a new business, go try it. You've got nothing to lose. You can just put pennies in and grab all that free training and then go set yourself up with something that lights your soul on fire. And by the way, if network marketing sets your soul on fire, go for it. Run with it with your heart and your soul, but you have to have your heart and your soul in that. So yeah, you have to be doing for things that are not just giving you the easiest path. So I had to do that. I had to step away from that business because I knew this was easy. I was getting all this gratification. I was getting the awards every month. I was getting leader of the month. And I was like number 1 in the UK at one point. And then I was number 2, number 3. And I was just like, oh God, I'm probably like number 252 now. And I don't care because it wasn't lighting me up anymore. So I had to choose the path of the most resistance, because the path of least resistance is a great avenue to pursue when you're having an actual test from the universe, when it actually counts. But if we can then start to train ourselves to take the harder path, then you're going to be adequately prepared to handle yourself when shit does hit the fan. So of course you can take the easy path, and sometimes we need to do that. Sometimes we just need to do that for a little bit. So like, I'm going to give the example here that and I've been in a number of these, when you're in an abusive relationship and you know you need to leave, and the path of the most resistance would be actually to leave and set up on your own and go through all that healing and breakup, and maybe it's a divorce and it's messy. That's the most resistance, isn't it? But it has to be right. Sometimes you actually need to take the path of the least resistance and just let time be easy until you are ready and you are strong enough to do that. So when you do this though, when you take the path of the most resistance, you'll never be in a relationship like that again. Or if a little red flag does come up, and I had one of these, I lived with him for 6 days. This wasn't my husband, this is pre-Kev. My family laugh about this, my 6-day boyfriend. We were together for a few years, but then he just turned, like, narcissistic, yucky energy came out after like 6 days. Well, on day 1 actually, but day 6 I made the chop. So you are able to then face those obstacles and hurdles in life so much easier when you take the path of the most resistance. So it could even be an uncomfortable conversation that you're avoiding at the moment. It might be with your spouse or your employer. And what most people will do when they know they need to have an uncomfortable conversation is tuck their tail in and run. And they put it off because they've never built up that toughness or that grit or that resiliency to kind of have those uncomfortable conversations. And in my experience, when you have those types of uncomfortable conversations, things get better. They always work out because you have been brave enough to stand your ground, create boundaries, but people choose to run away. So consider the way that most people start their day. Here's another example for you. They wake up, their predetermined time, the alarm clock goes off, and what's the first thing they do? They take the path of least resistance. They don't even get out of bed. They hit the snooze, and when they think they're going to go to the gym, they go, oh, no, I'm not going to go to the gym. Like, my knee really hurts today. I'm so sore from the gym yesterday. This was me, by the way. I'm always talking about personal experience. I've done this recently. Oh God, I had such a hard workout yesterday. I did do like boxing in that class. My shoulders are really tough, but my PT's got in my program, I've got to do arms today. Completely fucking muscles, by the way, that I've got in my arms. Different ones that she'd written out. And then they'll skip the gym, and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do my morning routine because I'm just so tired, I need the extra sleep. And then they get to the kitchen and they go, oh, I'm just going to have a bowl of cereal because it's just so much easier. They're taking the path of least resistance. So taking the path of most resistance is about participating in events, in experiences and opportunities that could potentially put yourself in a much better situation. And most people are afraid. They let the fear of what will happen to them. They're like, oh my God, my arm's actually going to fall off if I go to the gym again. This is literally where my brain went the last 2 weeks. I don't know my motivation has just gone, whoop, but I was like, right, it's time to take that path. And this is where this was born, this episode. I like made some notes on it the other day when I was at my walk. I was like, I always talk about stuff that I've gone through, but doing things that will help you thrive, excel, succeed in life. And I get it, the fear is freaking real, isn't it? It really is. And that acronym is false evidence appearing real. When you spell out fear like that, I don't necessarily always agree that fear is real. It's not. When I'm afraid, there are some legitimate reasons for that fear. You know, if there was a bear in the wood and it was chasing me, that's legitimate fear. There are potential negative consequences of that circumstance if I didn't run. But this is why it's really important that we are choosing from this week on the path of most resistance. Because when the consequences are at stake, you know, all that we've got going on here is a real conversation that needs to be had with ourselves. And when there's a real choice that needs to be made, when you're faced with a fucking natural disaster or, heaven forbid, like a bloody, I don't know, someone had a gun, they were coming towards you, that is a proper state of emergency. I sound American, don't I? Like, full-on natural disaster. I've been watching far too many TikToks with my son. He's as obsessed with natural weather as I am, like hurricanes, and he's like, Mummy, put the tornadoes on. Like, he'll come home from nursery and ask me to put it on my phone. I'm like, yeah, let's watch it. And if there's thunder or lightning going on, we're like, let's watch the lightning. So genuine kind of reasons for choosing that path. That's absolutely fine. Like, there's genuine reasons of choosing that path of like, run away. But let me show you. Taking the path of most resistance is going to help you build up your resilience. Choose this path so that you can choose to do the harder things, so that when you choose to do hard things, then the rest of your life you'll start choosing those other things, like, oh, I'm going to put those dishes away right now. I'm going to go for that walk that I promised myself I would. I'm going to phone that friend. I'm going to tidy up those whatever. And I noticed this when I did my 75 hard plan. We had to do exercise every day for 75 days. And that discipline of doing that built discipline in every other area of my life. What it also does is helps you to foster creativity. So when you choose the harder path, you're naturally going to improve your creative skills and your talents as well, because it's so important in a world that isn't linear, that's all over the place at the moment, where the unexpected can happen and all kinds of trials and obstacles and anything the universe can throw in your way, they will. So at each and every turn, each one of us can learn to be more creative. And a quote I came across is, I will find a way or make one. I love that. I saw that recently on TikTok. So sometimes the right course of action isn't going to present itself easily for you. And sometimes there isn't a clear path that we see straight away. But for you to become completely creative and look for different opportunities and different angles, it's going to be, just a great way to overcome situations that you might find yourself in. But if you've never placed yourself in any kind of stress at all, if you've never been uncomfortable or it's never been awkward, you've never had to run or you've never had to avoid situations, then you're not going to build up that creative muscle and you're going to get stuck. So you're not going to be able to produce, bring in income. You're not going to be able to get those amazing clients, bring in those conversations, get the pay rise you've wanted or whatever it is you're trying to do. Creativity is so important in a world that is going to throw you curveballs. It really is just taking a swerve in another direction, looking at it from different angles and go, okay, what do I need to do here? So you've got to give yourself the opportunity mentally, intellectually, physically to overcome some of these strange and unpredictable situations that we can find ourselves in sometimes. So you're never going to be able to thrive when things get difficult. It's also going to massively cultivate confidence, especially like maybe you got to talk to the knob end at work. And I had a friend recently who stood up to a really nasty boss, very proud of her. He was literally bullying her in the office and made her feel like this small. And she called him out on it, had him out, and then never went back. I was like, good girl. So she got uncomfortable in that situation. And yeah, she's definitely grown from it because she's now landed an even better job. So guys, take the path of the most resistance, and I want to hear from you. And I also want to hear from you as well. In the little show notes, there's a little link there where you can ask me questions. I am firing through these questions. I've actually run out now. I've recorded all 10 of them. So you've got another 10 episodes on Wednesday that will cover the sacred secrets. So anything you want to ask me, witchy, manifesting, intuition, like meditation, anything, all the stuff under the spiritual umbrella, just ask and I will always get it covered either in my free Manifest With Me Rebecca G Facebook group. So just look up on Facebook, Manifest With Me Rebecca G. You can jump in there and I cover lives in there quite a lot. Or I'll cover it on here. And if you ever want to be a guest as well, you can be a guest on here and I will share it with you, which you're going to be hearing quite a lot of soon. So a lot of my sacred girls are asking questions in our group. And I'm like, would you come on and be a guest? So if you want to be a guest on the podcast, then you can as well. So build up your resilience, get creative, get confident, choose the hard path. Any challenging situations that come up for you, then you're going to be able to harness these tools that you've got in your brain to do it. I've got faith in you. I know you're going to do it. You beautiful leader that's in you. And I hope you have an incredible week and you choose to take the path of most resistance. All right, beautiful souls. I'm going to finish today with a card pull because I haven't done one in ages. If you're watching on YouTube, I've got my beautiful goddess cards. Oh, yeah. Okay, what's the message for the girls today? Da-da-da, da-da-da. Oh, this one flew out. Here we go. Bust. So these are my goddess angel cards. This is all about being independent. So she looks like an Egyptian goddess. Yeah, she's definitely Egyptian. She's got like the Sphinx cats next to her. Absolute banging body. Look at her. So your independence is a foundation for your strength and success. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to see the card, there it is. Let's have a look. Oh, so the meaning of this card is about being independent and having a foundation for your strength and success. Like the cat, you are fiercely independent, yet you also need affection and playful companions. Now is the time to balance your social interactions with solitude. While you may ask others for your opinion, ultimately you must make your own decisions. Your freedom and independence are top priorities, so ensure that these characteristics are nurtured. Other meanings of this card: spend time alone. Oh, feeling like that at the moment. I feel like I just want to spend time in my girl cave in my office. Give yourself permission to play. Ask for your needs to be met. Make your own decisions. Work with cats. No, I'm a dog person. Pay attention to your pet feline or get a new cat. I'm not going to get a cat. Kevin would go mad. It's quite funny. We have a cat next door. a little ginger cat that comes over and it comes to the back door. If you've ever seen my stories on Instagram, my son loves this cat. So I feel like we get our cat fix from him. But Kev's always like, babe, where's that really nice ham from Waitrose that I bought? And I was like, yeah, Harley fed it to the cat. Sorry, babe. He gets really grumpy. So he's bought like this, the really cheap, where there's like about 200 pieces of ham in one packet. That's how you know an expensive piece of ham. There's like 3 or 4 slices, isn't there? The cheaper it is, the more they cram in there. I'm sure it's not actually ham. That's what we used to have in our sandwiches when we were kids, and it did me no harm. So anyway, but yeah, where am I going with this? Cats and ham. But yeah, he loves it. Anyway, have a wonderful week, everybody, and I will definitely see you on Sacred Souls if you're over in the membership there. And if you haven't checked that out yet, then check it out. We're getting some amazing shifts from these women. The root chakra stuff, woo! It's been mind-blowing. Have a great week, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm sending you a huge virtual squishy hug, and I hope today's episode has helped giving you some inspiration, energy, and a light bulb moment. So do share your light bulbs or any takeaways you've had on your socials and tag me in, as I absolutely love to hear from you. So if you love to share, you are going to love my giveaway. Every month I'm running a new competition to win a large moon box packed full of crystals, candles, affirmation cards, incense, my Love Yourself to the Moon and Back journal, and a real surprise of spiritual treats that change every month. So listen up if you want to win and get your hands on this, because all you have to do is, number 1, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Number 2, tag me on your socials with either a post, video or story of your top takeaway of that specific episode. Be sure to tag me in as @Rebecca Welstead-Green so that I see it, and you'll be entered into my free prize draw. So from my heart to yours, lots of love to the moon and back. Have a fabulous week, beautiful, and I can't wait to spend time with you again next week. Mwah!